When someone hurts you, deeply, unfairly, maybe even intentionally, your first instinct might be to pretend you're fine, to brush it off, to put on a strong face. And sure, there's a time for composure, but too often we confuse suppressing pain with mastering it. We bury it, thinking it'll go away on its own. But pain doesn't vanish because you ignore it. It festers. It leaks into your words, your choices, your trust in others. So, the first thing you need to do, before you even think about moving forward, is to face the pain. Squarely, without shame, without apology, because until you acknowledge that you were hurt, you can't truly begin to heal. There's a strength in simply saying, yes, that cut me, that disappointed me, that changed me. You're not weak for admitting it. You're honest. You're real. And that's where your power begins. Because what you don't face will own you, but what you confront, you can eventually rise above. Now listen, pain is persuasive. It whispers things in your ear, that you're not enough, that people can't be trusted, that you're broken, and if you're not careful, you'll start believing those things. You'll let one moment, one betrayal, one wound shape how you see yourself. You will start carrying around someone else's actions like they're part of your identity. Don't let that happen. Don't give them that much power. There's a difference between carrying the wound and becoming the wound. Feel the hurt, but don't wear it like a badge. Too many people go through life dragging their pain behind them, making it the lens they see everything through. They stop seeing clearly. Every relationship becomes a threat. Every gesture feels suspicious. Every silence seems like rejection. That's what happens when you let pain define you. You stop living. You start guarding. But here's the truth. Pain will visit, but it doesn't have to stay. It's not who you are, it's what happened to you. And when you begin to see it that way, you get to create space between the event and your identity. You get to say, yes, they hurt me, but they don't get to tell the story of who I am. You're allowed to feel everything you need to feel. Grief, anger, confusion, even rage. You're human. And healing doesn't happen through denial. It happens through truth, through being present with what's real. Not over-dramatizing it, but not minimizing it either. There's a balance. And when you find it, you reclaim control. I'll tell you something else. When you face your pain with honesty, it becomes a teacher, not a tormentor. You begin to learn things about people, yes, but more importantly, about yourself. You learn what you value. You learn where your boundaries should have been. You learn where your strength lies. And in that way, pain becomes part of your evolution, not your downfall. But this only happens when you don't rush past the hurt. When you stop looking for ways to numb it or escape it. The real courage isn't in pretending you're over it. It's in standing in it, feeling every uncomfortable thing, and still choosing not to let it poison your heart. You've got to give yourself permission to be wounded, but not ruined, to carry a scar, but not an open wound. You are not weak for being hurt. You are strong for choosing not to be destroyed by it. That's what separates people who grow from people who just go numb. One chooses to feel, to face it, and eventually to let go. The other avoids, resents, and builds walls that only end up trapping them inside. And I want to be clear, none of this means excusing what someone did. You don't have to justify it. You don't have to say it was okay. You just have to refuse to let their actions be the thing that writes your story from this point forward. That's your job. That's your right. So if you've been hurt, if someone left, betrayed, rejected, or disrespected you, feel it. Let yourself admit it. Talk about it. Cry if you need to. Write it down. Scream into a pillow. Whatever it takes. But don't stop there. Because you were not created to stay wounded. You were created to rise, to learn, to lead yourself out of the fire stronger than you were when you walked in. Pain is not the enemy. Letting it define you is, when someone hurts you, the easiest thing in the world is to react, to lash out, to snap back. It feels like justice, it feels like you're taking your power back, but in truth, it's often the opposite. When you react impulsively, emotionally, without pause, what you're really doing is handing them the script. You're giving them control over your next move, and if they were trying to provoke you, congratulations, they succeeded. But you don't have to play their game. The difference between reacting and responding is everything. Reaction is immediate, emotional, usually defensive. It's fueled by ego. It wants to win the moment. But response, that's something else. Response is measured. It's thoughtful. It puts your long-term peace above your short-term pride. Response says, I see what you did, but I decide what comes next. Let me tell you, when someone wounds you, there's going to be heat in your chest, that pressure behind your eyes, that voice in your head saying, say something, do something, hurt them back. That's your survival instinct kicking in, and it's strong. But here's the deal. Strength isn't in the outburst. Strength is in the pause. That pause, those few seconds where you breathe, hold your tongue, check in with yourself. That's where your power lives. That's where you break the cycle. Because if you respond out of pain, you just create more pain. You pass it on. But if you respond out of clarity, you change the outcome. You lead. And leaders don't let their emotions take the wheel. Now, I'm not telling you to become passive. I'm not saying let people walk over you. No. What I'm saying is stay in control. Respond in a way that reflects who you are, not who they are. Because if someone shows you disrespect and you react by becoming disrespectful too, you've joined them. You've lowered your standard to match theirs, and you're better than that. There's a difference between reacting from emotion and responding from wisdom. One creates chaos, the other creates clarity. And clarity is how you protect your peace. Ask yourself this: will what I say right now help or harm? Will it heal or escalate? Am I expressing myself or am I trying to punish? When you slow down enough to ask those questions, the right response starts to become clear. And you'll be shocked at how much damage you avoid just by pausing before you speak. Sometimes the best response is silence. Not because you're afraid, not because you're weak, but because you've outgrown the need to prove yourself to someone who doesn't see your worth. Silence can be louder than any comeback. And when you learn to hold your peace instead of proving your point, you realize not everything deserves your energy. Not every battle is yours to fight. Look, reacting might feel good for a few seconds. It might even make you feel powerful. But here's what happens next: regret. You replay what you said. You wish you handled it differently. And now, instead of just dealing with their actions, you're also dealing with your own. You've doubled your burden. You've added weight to the moment that didn't need to be there. But when you respond instead of react, you leave space for dignity, for strength. You walk away knowing you kept your character intact. That's not weakness. That's mastery. And that's what people respect in the end. Not who screamed the loudest, but who stayed grounded when the storm came. That's not easy, especially when the wound is fresh and you feel like you've been disrespected or misunderstood. But that's when it matters most. Anyone can stay calm when things are easy. True control shows up in the heat of the moment. And the ones who master that, they lead the room. They own the space. Because they're not driven by emotion, they're guided by purpose. You're not a puppet. You're not a machine that someone else gets to program with their behavior. You're a person with direction, values, and self-respect. And when you respond instead of react, you live on your own terms, not theirs. So the next time someone tries to provoke you, test you, or pull you into their drama, remember this: your power is not in how loud you get, it's in how little they can shake you. When someone crosses you, disrespects you, or hurts you, especially more than once, it's natural to want to shut everything down, to build a wall so high nobody can touch you again. That's the instinct. Protect yourself at all costs. But there's a difference between protecting yourself and isolating yourself. There's a difference between boundaries and barriers. One helps you stay whole. The other keeps you stuck and alone. A boundary is built out of strength. A barrier is built out of fear. And if you're not careful, that fear of being hurt again will start to shape how you relate to the world. You stop trusting, you stop opening up, you stop letting people in, even the ones who never did you wrong. You start assuming everyone's out to take something from you, and before you know it, your heart's in lockdown. You might feel safer, but deep down you know you're not living. You're just surviving. See, boundaries are not about keeping people out. They're about keeping you intact. They're not aggressive, they're not cold. They're clear. They say, this is where I end and this is where you begin. This is what I accept and this is what I won't tolerate. They come from self-respect, not bitterness. Too many people confuse being guarded with being wise. They think cutting everyone off is how you stay strong. But isolation isn't strength. It's a symptom of unhealed pain. It's what happens when you let the worst experiences of your past set the rules for your future. Don't let someone else's betrayal be the architect of your life. You get to choose who has access to your time, your energy, your heart, and how much. Now let me be real with you. Not everyone deserves access to you. Just because someone says sorry doesn't mean they've changed. Just because someone wants to be close doesn't mean they've earned that privilege. Forgiveness might be free, but access is earned. That's where boundaries come in. You can love someone and still keep your distance. You can care about someone and still say, no, I won't allow that in my life. That's not petty, that's not cruel. That's called maturity, because real love, including self-love, knows when to walk away, when to say enough, when to stop trying to fix what keeps breaking you. And here's something you've got to understand. Boundaries aren't for other people, they're for you. They're not about controlling what others do. They're about deciding what you will do when someone crosses the line. That's power. That's ownership. That's saying, I may not be able to change you, but I sure as hell can choose how I show up in this relationship. People will test your boundaries. They'll try to guilt trip you, manipulate you, make you feel like you're being unreasonable. But that's just noise. The people who truly respect you won't question your need to protect your peace. They'll honor it. And if someone walks away because you had the courage to draw a line, let them. Your peace was never safe in their hands anyway. Now, don't confuse boundaries with walls. You don't need to shut everyone out. You don't need to become cold or suspicious or emotionally unavailable just because you've been hurt. That's not healing. That's hiding. Boundaries let you stay open and protected. They allow you to love without losing yourself, to give without being depleted, to stay compassionate without becoming a doormat. It takes strength to say, I won't argue like this anymore. It takes strength to say, I need space, or I'm not okay with that, or this relationship isn't healthy for me. It's not about being perfect, it's about being honest, about showing up for yourself the way you wish others had shown up for you. And look, some people are going to fall away when you start setting boundaries. That's okay. That's how you make room for the ones who know how to treat you right. The ones who don't see your standards as a threat, but as a reflection of your worth. The people who belong in your life won't make you shrink to stay in theirs. So don't build walls so high, no one can reach you. Build gates with locks that only you hold the key to. Let the right people in, keep the wrong ones out, and always remember, you're not hard to love. You just finally learn to love yourself enough to stop settling for less. When someone hurts you, especially someone close, the first thing that rises up is the desire for justice. You want the scales balanced. You want them to feel what you felt. You want answers, apologies, some kind of consequence, and that feeling is valid. When you've been wronged, justice feels like the only thing that can make it right again. But if you're not careful, that craving for justice can turn into obsession. And obsession doesn't heal you. It just traps you in a loop of replaying the pain, waiting for someone else to fix what's already broken. Here's the truth. Some people won't ever say sorry. Some won't admit what they did. Some won't even understand the depth of how they hurt you, and some won't care. So if your peace is tied to their accountability, you'll be waiting a long time. That's why, instead of chasing justice, you need to start seeking something deeper. You need to seek understanding. Understanding isn't about excusing what they did. It's not about saying it was okay or brushing it under the rug. It's about getting curious instead of just getting angry. It's about asking why someone did what they did, not so you can justify it, but so you can take away its power over you. Because what you start to realize when you zoom out is this: people hurt others from their own wounds. They lash out from fear, insecurity, trauma, conditioning. Most of the time, it's not about you. It's about what they're carrying that they never dealt with. And once you see that, the hurt still stings, but it doesn't stick in the same way. You stop personalizing what wasn't personal. You stop absorbing what was never yours to carry. Think about how many times you've lashed out at someone when really you were just tired, stressed, or dealing with something else entirely. We've all been there. We've all said things we didn't mean or acted from a place we weren't proud of. Now multiply that by all the things other people might be carrying: grief, trauma, shame, generational pain. And you start to see that hurtful behavior isn't always calculated. It's often just reflex. And broken people can't always act whole. Again, that doesn't make it right. It just makes it real. And reality is what sets you free. Not fantasy, not revenge, not waiting on someone to suddenly become who they were never taught to be. When you understand the wound behind the action, you stop needing them to validate your pain. You validate it yourself. You say, yes, this hurt, but I won't let this hurt define how I see people or how I see myself. See, justice is about outcomes. Understanding is about insight. And insight gives you the one thing justice can't always deliver: peace. Because justice depends on them doing the right thing. Understanding depends on you choosing to see clearly, even when it's hard. And let's be honest, sometimes justice isn't enough. Even when someone does apologize, even when they face consequences, it doesn't erase the pain. It doesn't undo the damage. So what then? You still have to deal with what's left. You still have to heal. And healing only happens when you stop fighting the past and start learning from it. Understanding gives you something to work with. It helps you make sense of chaos. It helps you separate the behavior from your identity. It gives you compassion, not just for them, but for yourself. Because once you understand that most people are doing the best they can with what they know, even if it's not nearly good enough. You stop expecting perfection from people who were never shown how to love properly in the first place. It also helps you draw the right boundaries, not just from anger, but from clarity. You can walk away with peace, not bitterness. You can say, I see you, I understand where this comes from, and I still choose to step back, because this isn't healthy for me. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. And when you live this way, when you move through life seeking to understand more than you seek to punish, you don't just protect your peace, you elevate your perspective. You become harder to offend, slower to hate, quicker to forgive, not because you're naive, but because you're rooted, because you've seen enough to know that hurt people, and healed people help people. So seek justice when you must, but don't let it be your only goal, because the real freedom, the lasting freedom, comes when you stop waiting for someone else to make things right and start understanding the truth that sets you free.